Okay, so let's unpack this. We're diving into a concept that's, well, it's incredibly powerful. It could fundamentally redefine how you approach, learning, investing, decisions, everything. Today, we're doing a deep dive into Charles T. Munger's thinking, specifically around history, and the core idea that the most potent leverage, the deepest wisdom in modern life, it comes from really studying the past, deliberately.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is way more than just, read old books. Our mission here is to pull directly from Munger, from the research around his ideas, and figure out why. Why is reading history the ultimate shortcut to being genuinely well-informed? We want to show you the mechanics, right? And how it gives you this mental leverage almost instantly, and how it lets you gain centuries of experience without having to pay that awful price of failing yourself.
And I think the biggest hurdle right now anyway is just the culture. We're in this age that worships the new, always the new tech, the new influencer, the latest app. Everyone's chasing that cutting edge. But here's the brutal irony, the real wake-up call maybe. Everything that sinks people today, finance, relationships, strategy, you name it, it's already sunk thousands before. Thousands. The names change, the tech looks different, but the underlying human patterns, those destructive ones, they just don't.
That's the great blind spot, isn't it, of modern life? If you ignore the past, Munger basically argued you're not modern, you're blind. He totally nailed this core idea. I love this quote. He said, "There's no better teacher than history in all its forms."
That makes history sound, well, active, like a tool, not just a subject you study in school.
It absolutely is a tool. History is like humanity's most honest mirror. It doesn't show us who we want to be or who we pretend to be. It shows who we really, really are when the masks come off, when things get tough. Ignoring that reflection. That's basically choosing to stay ignorant, choosing to be constantly surprised by stuff that was actually pretty predictable.
Okay, let's get into the mechanics then. We're always looking for life hacks, for shortcuts. But you're saying the biggest one is just sitting there on a shelf. Why exactly is reading history the ultimate shortcut? How does that give you a real edge?
Okay, so it works through something we can call time compression and cost avoidance. It's actually a pretty elegant mechanism. When you read history seriously, you are, in effect, borrowing compound interest from dead geniuses.
Okay, I need you to unpack that phrase, borrowing compound interest. It sounds brilliant, sure, but what does that actually feel like? How does it work?
Well, think about it like this. Every person who achieved something big built an empire, made great investments, whatever they paid a price, right? Decades of struggle, failure, testing things, tweaking things. Munger and others argue you don't necessarily have to pay that full price. You can acquire their hard-won experience, their distilled lessons, without going through the staggering personal cost, the ruin, the decades of struggle. You're literally skipping centuries of necessary pain and effort.
Wow. So every hour you spend reading seriously, it compresses decades of human trial and error right into your head. It really is like time traveling then. Your mind gets to sample not just your own life, but like 1,000 different lives, different scenarios.
Exactly. Precisely. And that's why it's this forgotten treasury of wisdom. For, 5,000 years? The smartest humans didn't just, disappear. They left behind user manuals for the human condition. These aren't just dusty old books. They are actual blueprints, records of trial, failure, and eventually triumph left there for you.
Can we get specific, though? When you say blueprints, what are we actually getting access to? What kind of stuff?
Okay, look at someone like Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah.
He left blueprints not just on making money, but on discipline, building good habits, creating wealth. When you start with nothing, you can study his mistakes too, where he got greedy, where he succeeded, and you can literally apply that to your own routine, your own savings plan, like tomorrow or Darwin. He mapped out the basic laws of adaptation, of competition. Those apply just as much to how markets shift today as they do to, finches.
And Seneca, you mentioned him, writing about managing fear, staying calm when everything's chaotic. That sounds incredibly relevant right now.
Oh, absolutely. Seneca was writing when Rome was, let's just say politically volatile, immense uncertainty. His wisdom lets you study fear, panic, how people react when things fall apart. And crucially, books let you study whole financial bubbles. Think about the Dutch tulip mania, right? Or the 2008 crash. You can analyze them, understand the psychology, the mechanics, without being personally wiped out. You get all the data, all the lessons, zero personal ruin. That right there. That's pure mental leverage, unadulterated.
Okay, the leverage mechanism, the time compression, that's clear. But let's shift to how Munger used this knowledge. His genius wasn't really inventing new stuff, right? It was how he put existing knowledge together.
Right. And that brings us straight to Munger's signature approach, the multidisciplinary lens. His real genius was stitching together these old, powerful principles from totally different fields. He didn't see economics here, psychology there, biology over there. He saw it all as one interconnected map of reality.
He called it the latticework of mental models. Now, for someone hearing that for the first time, it sounds maybe intimidating, super complex. Is this only for geniuses?
Not at all. It takes discipline, for sure, but it's not about raw genius. The latticework is basically a framework. You take the most durable, powerful ideas from diverse thinkers, dead thinkers, mostly across economics, psychology, biology, physics, history. But the key is you don't just learn them separately. You connect them. So, for example, you take inertia from physics. Things keep going unless stopped, right?
Right.
And you combine that with confirmation bias from psychology, how we cling to ideas we already believe. Put those together, and suddenly you understand why it's so hard to turn around a failing company. It's not just physics. It's human brains actively resisting the evidence.
Ah, okay. That makes the connection much clearer. So Munger wasn't trying to be the best psychologist or the best physicist. He wanted to be the best synthesizer.
Exactly right. And for Munger, learning from history, building this framework, it wasn't just intellectual curiosity. It was survival. It's the essential toolkit you need to spot the human biases, the market manias, the ethical traps, before they blow up in your face. Think of it as an immediate upgrade to your mental operating system.
You're saying reading history literally rewrites your internal code. It patches the bugs we inherit, the sort of outdated software that makes us predictable and prone to error.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. And Munger was blunt about it. He said, if you can't read the past, you're condemned to act like every fool who came before you. Think about typical education. It often rewards just memorizing facts within one narrow subject, obedience. But the real world, the world of consequences and opportunities, it rewards synthesis, connecting dots nobody else sees because they're stuck in their little silo. Progress really happens because of generalists who can pull lessons from all over the map.
Okay, so if the big payoff here is predictive power, what does that actually look like day to day? How does knowing about, say, ancient Rome help me make a better investment choice this afternoon?
It gives you a kind of certainty. Maybe confidence is a better word. When you understand these timeless patterns of human behavior, you just stop being surprised all the time. History is that mirror, right? It shows that while the surface changes smartphones, instead of scrolls, the deep patterns, driven by the same old human flaws. Greed, envy, arrogance. It's the same movie, just rerun with new actors and costumes.
That kind of foresight, it must bring an incredible sense of calm. You've seen this film before, maybe not the exact plot, but the themes, so you don't freak out.
You anticipate, yeah. And this is where another key Munger tool comes in, inversion. It's critical. Learning history isn't just about admiring the past, it's about actively weaponizing it. So instead of asking, how do I succeed, you flip it. You ask, what are all the ways I could fail, and how do I avoid those?
That's a totally different approach, isn't it? You're not hunting for the one magic bullet for success. You're mapping out all the landmines of disaster that history has already marked for you.
Precisely. You collect the data from every dumb investment, every failed government policy, every moral collapse you can find in history. The fool ignores it, hopes this time is different. The wise person studies the failure patterns and designs their strategies specifically to sidestep them. Inversion is basically using historical failure as a strategic asset.
And this whole process, collecting success blueprints, collecting failure data, it sounds like it builds something really solid inside you.
It does. It lets you build a really robust internal compass. Or think of it like building an advisory board inside your own head. It's made up of the smartest people who ever lived. When you study history deeply, you see how their ideas connect across centuries. Franklin talks to Munger about discipline. Seneca meets Marcus Aurelius to discuss resilience, facing hardship.
And having that strong internal framework, that must make you pretty unshakable. Much harder to manipulate by whatever's trending today, the media frenzy, the political noise. You start seeing why people act the way they do. You see the incentives. You stop getting swept up in slogans and start thinking in systems and patterns.
That's the absolute key. You stay calmer when markets tank, or when the news cycle is screaming panic. Because you've literally seen versions of this play out before, many times, through the eyes of those who lived through the historical parallels. You recognize the script.
So looking at the big picture, the strategic outcome of all this reading, it's about operating on a totally different timescale, isn't it? You step out of the day-to-day reactive chaos.
Yes, exactly. Reading history, in this sense, has been called rebellion in its purest form. Think about it. The modern system, news, ads, notifications, it wants you to have short-term memory. It wants you distracted, emotional, easy to influence, easy to frighten. Thinking historically,
Yeah.
that completely breaks the cycle.
And the reward for that rebellion is perspective, a profound perspective. You shift from just reacting to life to actually predicting its patterns. You go from being a spectator caught in the chaos to potentially a designer of outcomes in your own sphere. You're compounding wisdom while everyone else is just reacting to noise.
And we absolutely have to mention silence here. Reading history seriously, especially the original sources, it forces silence. It demands focus. And silence is, frankly, kind of scary in our culture because it makes you confront your own ignorance, how much you don't know.
But that silence must be where the magic happens, right? Where the synthesis occurs. It cleans out the mental clutter, the noise, so the actual wisdom can take root, uncorrupted by, the endless scroll and the pinging notifications.
Exactly. The ability to just sit, absorb, to time travel with Darwin or reason with Franklin, that is the competitive edge.
Yeah.
Look at Munger's own life. The guy built an empire. Not by guessing, not by following trends, by reading, synthesizing, and applying centuries of distilled knowledge. Applied knowledge is power, and reading history is the fastest way to acquire that applicable knowledge.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap. The leverage here is immense. The perspective gained by, as you say, making friends with the eminent dead. It's profound. They left the blueprints, the warnings, the user manuals. We just need to pick them up.
Yeah.
The smartest people who ever lived, they're still talking. You just have to create the quiet space to listen. So the final challenge to you, the listener, is simple. Don't just read summaries. Pick one dead genius. Franklin, Darwin, Aurelius, Seneca, whoever resonates. Get their actual work. Start a conversation. Every primary source you engage with is like a quiet act of defiance against superficiality, a strike against stupidity.
And here's the provocative final thought we want to leave you with, pulling straight from everything we've discussed.
Yes.
History doesn't repeat for the wise. It repeats for the uneducated.